What's going on, everybody? Dogman Dan here. We are in Warframe. Just some stuff going on in the background as I'm playing my Saren Prime Kypex. I want to go over from the dev workshop the passives, Volt, Mag, and everything that's going on here in terms of the update that's for update 18.13 for the reworks. So that's all we're going to cover right here. I'm just going to cover the changes on Volt. I'm going to cover the changes on Mag. I'm going to cover the new passives, talk about Mesa and Limbo, where they stand. And then, of course, when 18.3 comes out, what happens after that. So there's several phases to follow. So let's just get into this pretty quickly. Volt's reworks. Okay, so this is basically the quick rundown. Volt gets his passive. I'll explain that in a second. His abilities. Shock remains unchanged. It's going to stay pretty much as it is. Speed. It's going to have a big difference. It's now going to have a field of view reduced on cast, which should help the motion sickness complaints from other players. Other players in range now get the opt-in to Volt speed buff, so you don't have to run Volt speed buff if you don't want to, especially if it does make you sick. And by activating a pickup that Volt will drop on his cast, that's how you get into it. So if you don't want to, once he activates speed, you don't have to pick this up to the cast that he drops. That's all, basically. So that should be pretty cool. Sometimes I don't want to be picked up, sped up by Volt either, so you know you have the option. Shield is going to be receiving a graphic overhaul, improvement on casting, ambient effects, and such effects on the projectiles pass through. The shield now offers stronger synergies with shock in the cast. It's going to charge the shield with electrical damage, which will hurt enemies that come in contact with the shield at this point. And as a late addition, shield can also be picked up with context action, which limits weapon usage and drains energy. Not quite sure how that's going to work, but it's nice to see that the shield is going to be able to pick up electric damage when you push shock through it. Okay, overload, big change here. It's still going to spread out from Volt in a wave, and enemies who come in contact are turned into stationary Tesla coils now that will arc and zap nearby enemies in range. Damage will be dealt to the enemies in turn by these Tesla coils and its targets. So it's kind of spread over and over and over. Loot crates can also be turned into coils, but they only have one charge in them. Casting shock on Tesla coils will cause an AoE burst. So now it's even more integrated with the shock ability. In terms of the passive, this is going to be an interesting passive for Volt. Physical ground travel distance between attacks will cause electrical damage bonuses on the next attack. So physical ground travel. So you have to be on the ground, not bullet jump in the air, not jump on the walls, that type of thing. Physical ground travel in between your attacks is going to give you additional bonus damage. I think that's a pretty cool little passive that's going on there. Okay, so Mag's got a whole bunch of things going on. Pull is going to remain mostly as it was before. Enemies magnetized, bonus damage is dealt. Kills have a bonus chance of dropping energy while causing enemies to experience almost physics-defying deaths. Magnetize, previously bullet detractor, will root the target in place. Damage over time is dealt to all enemies within that set radius, with the amount of damage based on how far from the center of the magnetized they are. A percentage of the damage is going to be absorbed from absorbed bullets, projectiles, shrapnel, will actually be used to increase that damage over time, and up to 4 targets can be magnetized at this time. Pretty interesting how that's going to work. Polarize will now spread similar to Nova's Molecular Prime. Targets with shields will take shield damage. Targets with armor will take health damage, and a permanent armor debuff will occur as a result. Targets will emit a piece or 2 of shrapnel, which can be used to create synergies with Mag's other abilities. So basically, if you use Polarize, this will synergize with Magnetize, and those shrapnel pieces will go towards those enemies. You see how it's working, so I think that's a pretty nice thing how they did that. Same with Pull. And then finally, Crush will now deal damage bonuses to magnetized enemies. Okay, passive on Mag is actually going to be a vacuum effect, as it was discussed a week or so ago in the dev stream, on every bullet jump. Should be quite interesting there. Okay, quickly going through Ash, bleed procs dealt by Ash from any source are 25% deadlier and last 50% longer. Banshee, all weapons are going to be treated as silent. Ember, receiving a heat status effect, will regenerate energy for the duration of the status effect, 10 energy per second, and increase power strength by 35%. I like what they did there. Hydroid, every melee ground slam has a 50% chance to lure a tentacle that will last 50 seconds. Limbo, holster speed and reload speed is 50% faster while in Rift, and movement speed increase by 10% while also in Rift. Loki is going to have a 10 times wall cling duration. Necros, enemy death within 10 meters of Necros regenerates a 5 health. Interesting. Nova, when Nova is down, she will knock down enemies with a 6-meter radius. Nyx, enemies affected by any of Nyx's powers have a chance to lay down their weapon and become disarmed. Oberon, all wildlife, neutral or enemy, within a 10-meter range of Oberon will become allies and fight for Oberon for 20 seconds. That's going to be pretty interesting. Trinities, they revive fallen allies faster from further away. And Vauban, other Warframes within 10 meters are going to give a 25% bonus armor. So those are the updates that are in there in terms of passives. We'll obviously go through some of them, see which is good, which is bad. Now I'm going to quickly talk about Mesa. As you know, they're talking about Mesa's personal Peacemaker weapon scale and secondary weapon mods. Peacemaker itself will be tweaked to accommodate for the sudden surge in power and inheriting underlying mod introduces. They're still working making Shooter Gallery a permanent buff on Mesa when cast, but allies will still have to rotate. And Limbo, they'll make more changes to him by the update. His passive is really not something we believe puts him in place, and they think it's near final. They're considering replacing his Rift Surge with something else, so stay tuned on that. Alright, I'll catch you guys in the next episode, update 18, 13 probably, overviews. Till then, thanks for tuning in.